There's a point in your career where you're not burned out, you're not unhappy, you're just quietly asking, what's next? And if you work an event, that question gets really loud when the show floor goes dark. And today's guest knows that moment all too well. If trade shows were real estate, she'd probably be selling penthouses with naming rights. It's Event About It with Carly. Welcome to Event About It. I'm your host, Megan Martin, and tonight's guest has spent her career on the revenue side of the show floor, growing programs, leading teams, and staying close enough to the work to feel all of it. Welcome to the studio trade show, Carly.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So glad to have you as our first guest of 2026. It's an incredible way to start the year and all the conversations. So before we get into all the fun games, you have named yourself a trade show girly. Your Instagram and all the places we find you is Trade Show Carly. So how did you turn your job into basically a full personality at this point?
I guess that's the best way to call it, is my personality. When I just started to really get deep in to events and I started to realize like this is where I wanted to spend my time. This is really where I wanted to kind of plant my career flag. It's just so fun. There's just so much fun that you can have with it. There's so much content that you could make out of it. Although it's a full-time job to do that too. And then fast forward to this past October, Taylor Swift came out with a song that was literally about being showgirls. And that's what we do. Like there's so much, I talk all about, below deck, like we're literally below deck in concrete buildings. And so I just wanted to make it fun again. There's a lot of stress around trade shows. There's a lot of high pressure stakes. Like we're dealing with 7-figure shows and things like that. But I just saw how much fun that we could start to have with it. I wanted to like showcase a little bit of the work that we do that I'm so proud of, but just in a bit more of a fun way. So yeah, it's been fun and challenging to like try and pull that through on top of like, running your day-to-day job.
Absolutely. I mean, I also think you have such a niche in like there's niches all over the events industry and being able to differentiate yourself as like the trade show person, I think is really fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, before we get into some big stories, we're going to play a game called Revenue Reality Check. And I'm going to give you some real event revenue decisions, and you give me one word, the truth you'd say in the boardroom, but probably not in the brochure.
Gotcha.
Okay, are you ready for the first one?
Yes, hit me with them.
All right, discounting sponsorships to hit end of year targets.
Can get irresponsible.
Custom activations that don't scale.
Not needed.
I like that. Letting top sponsors dictate the experience.
It happens.
Lead count as a primary success metric.
Ugh. That's my word. Ugh.
That's the best word. Post-show reports no one reads.
Their fault.
Well, sometimes the reports can get super long. Like, I don't think people actually present post-show reports correctly, so no one reads them if you don't present them correctly.
Oh yeah, I've been a big crusader of trying to, which is like not my strong suit, so I have to be very careful when I'm like asking other people on the team to be like, we gotta make this better. Yeah. But if you're not doing it, it's the only way you can go out and find new business because people just want to know how the show was last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of that's evolving. Like there's new AI tools and stuff that can make things visually so much more appealing.
So much better.
Attribution models that ignore events.
Oh, dumb.
Launching new sponsorship categories mid-cycle.
Important.
Why would you say that's important?
Because the show takes on a life of its own. I compare all shows to sports teams. And so no sales cycle is alike. I've been selling the same shows now for 6, might be my 7th year if I did the math, which is crazy. And each sales cycle is so different. Each show cycle is so different. And halfway through the year, the show just takes on a life of its own. The industry is probably changing. And so if all of a sudden, for example, we launched halfway through this past year, um, a military track of education, which came with sponsorships, which came with all their types of promotion, because we just all of a sudden were seeing a cry from the industry of like, hey, we're trying to transition out of military life and into civilian life. We need a home. So I think it's important. You've got to be listening to your show planning and your industry, and then there's revenue attached to new things that come up.
And so your point to that is mainly around doing it because the market is dictating and not
Yeah.
because, oh, we need more revenue. So let's offer more sponsorship.
Yes and no. I mean, if you need more revenue halfway through the show cycle and stuff you have is not selling, you've got to listen to them. If people have money, and you've got to meet their needs where they're at. So if that means coming up with something new, then do it. But I think if you really have your finger on the pulse of your show and the finger on the pulse of your industry, you're going to naturally want to come up with new things because stuff's going on.
Makes sense. All right, last couple. Relying on the same top 10 sponsors every year.
Dangerous, irresponsible.
Revenue targets set without operational input.
You're going to make no money.
Selling future flexibility to close today's deal.
It's a big topic of conversation.
Agreed. Well, that was the boardroom version of revenue reality checks. Thank you for playing. That was fun.
Oh, it
Okay,
was so fun. Any Bravo fun style game is fun to me.
of course. Okay, well, now let's get into the text version.
Mhm.
And it's time for the vent of the week. It's my favorite part of every show, our favorite therapy session, the vent of the week. It's not about complaining, it's about naming the friction that makes this industry harder than it should be. It's the part of the show where we stop being professionals just for a minute. So tell us, Carly, what's something in events right now that makes you want to close your laptop, stare at the wall, and say, are we serious?
A few come to mind. Um, I think the first that comes to mind is there's so much rhetoric and conversation out there in the world, on LinkedIn, on social platforms, at events, about the future of events and how do we future proof events? How do we change them? How do we innovate them? And that's important conversation. But sometimes I do think we're overthinking it a little bit. Like I see some of the ideas that people are putting out there and I feel so like shitty because I'm like, stop raining on people's parade, Carly. Like they're ideating. But like some of these things we're really trying to reinvent the wheel. I see these things about like registration setup. All we need to do is get people into a building safely, sufficiently, quickly, get a badge around their neck, and then get them to the next thing that makes sense for them. And if that just means they're going back to the hotel lobby bar, then that's potentially what that means. We don't need to reinvent something so ridiculous to get to the point. And a lot of it's centered around like what the next generation wants in an event. And from what I can see, we're not including that next generation in any part of this conversation. It's a lot of very serious, like very experienced, very seasoned veteran people saying like, who's the next generation of buyers? That's probably mostly millennials stepping into that area if they're not there yet. Potentially some Gen Z. Like I'm not a generational data person, but it's probably that. And then who's the next generation of attendees? We're getting close to like Gen Alpha. Has anyone asked them or studied them, one to one? We're not sending them to events. I see on our show floors that we have, YoPro communities. I'm still fairly connected into that industry or sector of industry too. And typically you have to win an award. You have to be selected to speak. We're not sending these young people to events to just be attendees and be there. They have to really fight for that. And I get it. I get the budgets are tight. I get how much it costs to send someone there, but we're never going to know about what the future really wants if they don't go and experience what it is now. And so that's a little bit of where I get like, guys, like we're overthinking this, or we're just putting these ideas out there to do that. The other one that comes to mind, and I know I have my fellow like trade show girls out there and guys who will probably feel this. I am tired of of and I'm speaking directly to like the event profs, not the association staff or event, or community staff that have to go to the event as a part of their job function, but it's not their main job function, of treating being on site like it's prison. Like, this is our Super Bowl. Like, I want everyone that I work with in the event community, everyone who's a part of the show management team, to arrive in that city, to arrive in that building so freaking excited and ready to go. Like, it's a privilege to be able to stand in the heartbeat of your hard work. And there are some people who are like, ugh, we gotta go to Vegas next week. I get it. Vegas can like is a yay or nay for some people. Or
Sure.
we gotta go to LA, or we gotta go here. We gotta go to our show. Like, this is our Super Bowl. Everyone get excited. And I see some people where they're like, I just hate being on site. Why are you in this then? Why are you doing this then? So that's my other like makes me makes me
I mean,
angry.
I do kind of get it. So a couple of your points, like the generation thing, I do get, but like I'm tired of breaking it up by generations and generalizing like whole generations. Like what Gen Z and Gen Alpha wants is also what I want.
Oh, for
Like, and
sure.
how I approach events. So like, why do we even use generation as like
Yeah.
a definitive segmentation factor on how we approach audience acquisition or whatever it is? Like, I'm kind of over the whole generation thing. Like, said millennials were lazy as hell, and are we really? No.
We can have a
So
whole separate podcast discussion about how that is the most inaccurate truth I've ever heard in my life.
yeah, so that already annoys me too. I'm kind of over the whole
Yeah.
generation thing, but like I don't how do you get an accountant, like someone who wants to live in their spreadsheets and in their data management and financials to be excited to stand behind registration and like extrovert
So
for 4
that
days?
wouldn't be the person that I would like look at and be like, get excited to be here. That'd be the person that I'd like almost check in with and be like, how you doing? Do you need a break type thing? Like, I'm talking about, I've talked to meeting planners, I've talked
Oh,
to
gotcha.
contractors, I've talked to salespeople who are like, ugh, we got to go on site. We got to go deal with people. Yeah. So like that's why I'm saying that specifically to like
Got
our
it.
event prof people. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Accountants who have to go and deal with the petty cash and that's not your vibe. Like, I get it. And I'm around if you need a quick break and you need to go hide somewhere. Go hide in the press room.
Yeah, HR is already like, "Oh god, we have to go to the show again."
Yeah, exactly. They have a whole other nightmare to deal with.
Totally. Well, sometimes I think we probably need HR on site, and I think a lot of people would say we definitely don't need HR on site.
You need to vent about it after dark, and then that's really where you could bring up some of that.
Absolutely,
I'd probably
absolutely.
teeter somewhere in between.
I would agree. I would agree. Well, those are some great industry events and definitely room for improvement there. So, next up, let's event about it. It's the part of the show where our guest spills the tea on a memorable event moment, whether it was chaos, a near disaster, or a moment where you thought this cannot be my job. We want the story. So take us to an event moment you'll never forget. I have one specifically I want to ask you about, but
Yeah.
Phil, share first, and then I'll ask you about the event scenario that happened to you that I'm super curious about.
Yeah, I would imagine it's probably what my answer is. So I do a lot of events outside to start with. And so I've spent the last 7 years working with the National Business Aviation Association. I do not work for them. I am a contractor for them. But they are some of the most brilliant event designers I've ever seen. And they manage airplanes. Like, we put full on private jets on display. And so that comes with obviously a huge set of challenges.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
We're
talking
do
convention center booths here. We're talking like
No, we are not. We were talking about, like, I think the last jet that was just debuted is about $80 million before you put a seat on it. So I'm totally in the market for one. I'm sure you are too.
I mean, I
Um,
intentionally think I'm afraid to fly private because I will love it so much
yeah,
and
it's
then
like
I
flying
won't get to
business.
do it again and I'll just be devastated. So like at this point I don't think I want to do it because
Yeah.
it's going to be like crack and I'll just want more and I can't afford
No,
it.
it's for sure going to be. And people ask me all the time, like, do you get to do it? I'm like, I have been physically on these jets more times than I can count. I've never been on up off the ground, and I don't need to because I'm the same way. I know how bougie I am to start. Like, it's like
Yeah.
flying business. You'll just never go back.
So we're saying
Um,
private jets, you're not in a convention center, you're renting like airport spaces, runways, like big outdoor venues to hold all these jets.
Yeah, and so for a lot of our events, we'll do the convention center and an airport. So we're kind of managing two different event spaces. Um, and I will say, so this particular moment that was just so crazy, I did not have to be the main person to deal with the repercussions of it, although kind of like 6, 7 months later, I was as the salesperson. So I don't want to steal the thunder of the people who were like on the ground in it, but we were in Geneva, Switzerland. Europe, for most people are aware, is they're just much further ahead in terms of sustainability, and they have different types of protesting laws. And so we knew we were going to have protesters. Private jets obviously are a pretty polarizing topic, although again, could do a whole separate podcast on why they are good for the world as well. But obviously environmentally they're pretty polarizing, and so we knew that there were going to be peaceful protesters outside our convention center. We had a plan. The MBA executives had a great contingency plan for all of that, and like in very classic events, we did have some really actually what I'll call active protesters that actually took over the airport. So for anyone who's been to Geneva, their convention center is attached to an airport, so it actually made it so convenient. Our attendees could flow in and out of things. And protesters did that we were not prepared for take over that airport. We had to shut down our entire event. They had to shut down the entire Geneva International Airport. And for me, it was that moment where we hear all about plans, right? Like you got to plan, you got to have a contingency plan, you have to have a safety plan, you have to have all these plans. And it was me standing there hearing like, oh no, the airport's been taken. Like our, not our worst nightmare because safety was at risk, but we knew that it was going to be okay. But like one of our worst nightmares is happening. And I was like,
Yeah, the
oh,
protesters are like, we're the captain now.
oh, for sure. Like if there's video online that you can find that's just,
I
it's just
watched the
crazy. But
videos, I saw the photos. I'll tell you, this was insane. Like
it
I've
was.
dealt with protesters before. I've had
Yeah.
protesters break into our meeting, storm
Yeah.
meeting rooms of board meetings with board members in it. And I thought that was intense until I
Yeah.
saw what you had to go through. Like literally like clinging on to some of these
Yeah.
airplanes,
They're,
refusing to leave. Like it was a
yeah.
lot.
It's crazy. And it was that moment where you're like, oh, these plans are real. These contingency plans are real.
Yeah,
These aren't group projects that you do at the in January, because I'm sure everyone's like deep in the thick of planning right now.
sure.
These are real. Like this could really happen, and you really do have to be prepared. And so that was the moment where you're like, is this my life? Like, how lucky am I to be standing in Switzerland, but I'm staring at something that I can't stop. So that was definitely that. But doing events outside comes with a whole other round of things. So we were doing just a super small event up in New York, right outside of New York City. We rented basically a small private airport to do a 1 day event. And when you do events outside, obviously the weather is an even bigger factor into your event. We had a beautiful day, which is great. We have a beautiful day means we typically get even more attendees. That is great. And then just out of nowhere, it's an event in June, just a classic like New York City thunderstorm comes over us. Again, that's fine. We've dealt with the rain before, but it was like the heavens opened up on us. And we do have a tent for registration. And I remember like everyone running inside this tent, and it started to flood. And I mean, it's just like a tent that you see in like golf tournaments. And as we're like trying to like put everyone's bags on tables, and it was before I moved over to fashion sneakers as my shoe of choice. And so I'm in these tiny little flats that are, I mean, our ankles are like covered in water. And then all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, the equipment's about to get damaged. Like this could start a fire.
Yeah.
And I see our registration manager just jump over a table with bolt cutters and just cut all of the wires of the electricity in there. And again, you're like, what is, how does this happen? Like, how did I get here? And why do I love being here so much? So
I mean, I
those
think
are the
we've
two
all
that come
had
to
the
mind.
moments. Okay,
Oh
well,
yeah.
let's backtrack to the protesters for a minute.
Yeah,
I mean, they shut down the Geneva International
they
Airport,
did.
which is crazy
Illegal.
to
Yeah.
think about. What have you guys done since then to kind of change some of the security protocols to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Yeah, again, NBA has got truly some of the smartest event people in the game, in my opinion. And so they've done so much overhaul to their events, hiring just top tier consultants, and like just owning up to the fact that this is a risk factor in their events. And so outside of kind of consultants, they've worked directly with exhibitors who plan on bringing airplanes. All of those exhibiting teams have their own
Sure.
security teams. And so it's a lot of facilitation between their security teams, the venue's security teams, and our exhibitor security teams to ensure that everyone has really good, a really good plan and really good action items and things. Our exhibitors have hunkered down a little bit on who they invite into their booths. And so, kind of pre pandemic, before this really became a thing, anyone could come into their booth and maybe get on an airplane to check it out. There's a lot of enthusiasts in the aviation world,
I was
which
gonna
is
say, is
great.
this just buyers or is it open to anybody? Like
Yeah,
I could show up and be like, I want to look at a PJ, even though
we'll,
I don't
we'll
have
get
$80
you.
million.
We'll get you on one, Megan. Yeah. So again, our event yields people who work in the industry are also just really passionate about it, even if they don't have a direct
Sure.
need to buy. And it's become a big part of conversation to exhibitors and their ROI of like, do we just need buyers? Do we need the enthusiasts who make the recommendations? Like it's actually snowballed into so much more iteration
Sure.
to and innovation to their event. But yeah, lots of different changes to their security. And everyone's just so much more hyper vigilant and everyone reads the plan now because you know that this could actually happen.
As horrible as this might sound, like sometimes it takes a situation to happen to force you to get better. Like we all get comfortable in our,
Yeah.
day to day. It won't happen to me until it does. So
Yeah.
as unfortunate as it is, I'm glad people are actually reading the plans now.
Yeah. And it's that phrase of like, you don't think this could happen at your event, but I guarantee like you could probably play a whole game of different industries
Yeah,
and us like event people could push and dig a hole as to where something like this could happen to you. And
for
it's not to
sure.
scare people. It really is just to be like, I mean, like when you're mid-tier on the totem pole, in the start of your event career, you could think that you aren't going to potentially be standing right there having to deal with it. Like read the plan that's put in front of you, like
Sure.
follow that plan. And as we kind of rise up into leadership, like shit, I might have to come up with this plan.
Well, you're responsible now, and that's a scary thought. People rely on
Mhm.
you when you move up, and we could
Yeah, I
talk
don't know
about
when
that
I
in the
became
after
the
show.
yeah, I don't know when I became the adult in the room, but yeah, it's a question on my mind a lot.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk quickly about the rain situation. I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes that stuff's just a fluke. Like you don't
yeah,
expect the heavens to open up and basically flood your show. I mean, there's only so much you can do to prepare for that anyway. So you were saying your registration banner jumping the table, like full Indiana Jones,
oh yeah,
bolt
yeah,
cutters in hand, cutting
yeah.
these cords. What was the point of that? And how do you recover? So, like, how long does this rainstorm last? Do you recover? Like, how do you get back on track after everyone is scrambling for cover on this rainstorm? The equipment is now not connected because you just bolt cutted all the
Because you
cords
just cut it off.
to save
Yeah,
it. So, like, how do you come back after, let's say it was a 45-minute rainstorm or even 20 minutes, like a Florida
yeah.
fluke rain?
I mean, thankfully in this particular case, it was towards the end of the day, so we were a little bit
Okay.
like, this is ending. Um, the other thing that helps in the aviation world is most aviation professionals are used to being outside. So they are used to weather playing a very big role in their not only their day-to-day lives, but in going to events. There's a huge event out in Oshkosh, Wisconsin every year that is constantly having weather challenges put in front of it. There's events down in South America that I could list that have had wind issues. So they're a pretty resilient group of people when it comes to stuff like this. But I mean, MBA has had weather challenges all the time. I've seen them have to make really tough decisions to shut down an event before it's even opened, or delay the opening to it, which is so hard. Again, like you
Yeah.
work so hard, you're so ready to cut the ribbon, and it's just not safe, or it's just not going to be a productive experience for everyone. And so those are really tough decisions. But again, they're when you're an aviation lover, you're typically used to some of that. So, but I've seen it all so far when it comes to weather challenges.
Well, those are two pretty crazy stories. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing them. And that's all the time we have today. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Event About It, where we turn event mishaps into marketing gold. If you enjoyed the chaos, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs a good laugh. And don't forget to head over to eventaboutitpodcast.com, send us your events and stories to be featured on a future episode. And while you're there, be sure to catch the Event About It after show for dynamic dialogue with Carly, where we talk about career plateaus, imposter syndrome, and what it really means to build an identity in one of the only industries where you can physically stand in the heartbeat of your work. Until next time, keep growing, keep laughing, and keep eventing about it.